evening, everyone. Thank you for staying and not leaving. Tonight, we are going to do a Facebook consultation analytical report by myself, Ricardo, and my partner, Deniece. Alright. So my partner, Deniece, is going to go ahead and get started for us with the synopsis, the mission, the issue under investigation, our secondary research, our first part of the secondary research, and then I will continue with the second part of the secondary research, which includes a timeline of the scandals that Facebook has been dealing with. And then Deniece will go ahead and do the recommendations, and I will do the conclusion. I will hand it off to Deniece now.
Hi guys, so the purpose of our presentation is to bring awareness to the constant data breaches Facebook has faced over more than a decade, and in addition to that, address its privacy policies in regards to its users, and the data protection referring to personal information that is shared with people besides the users themselves, how Facebook can reestablish trust with consumers, and reiterate the responsibility of Facebook being that it is a social media platform. So just a little bit about Facebook. The mission of Facebook is to give people the power to build community and bring the world closer together. It was founded by Mark Zuckerberg in 2004. Its use is to stay connected with friends and family, to discover what's going on in the world, market, share, and express content. So the issue, as I stated before, is how Facebook handles the private information of its users. So it's had numerous data breaches. Ricardo will cover this later in the presentation. However, just to give you two highlights, Cambridge Analytica, where 87 million users' information was shared, and it had an effect in the 2016 campaign, which led Mark Zuckerberg being questioned by Congress. And recently, if you guys weren't familiar, there was a data breach on September 25th of this year. There is no name for it. It's just called September 25th data breach. 29 million accounts were compromised, and if you're not familiar with that term, basically an account gets hacked, gets taken over, and that's really crucial because Facebook has a lot of our personal information, including credit cards that are stored, addresses of where people live, messages that can contain whatever information. So there's a huge security vulnerability. So in regard to our primary research, though it was not required, we did go ahead and include it because we had insiders within the Facebook organization in Austin who could confirm our information that we were saying. So how we went about this is we examined the current policies that are instated by Facebook, and then the plans that the company has to implement to remedy these data breaches. And we identified areas that had not been addressed in further meetings between company executives, and then identified areas that needed to be improved. So it may look a little bit confusing, but it's not, I promise. So basically, essentially, I took a poll on Facebook. This is the age of the people who were featured in the poll. The reason why it is going downwards is due to the time that it was, the users decided to take the survey that I uploaded. And basically the survey that I conducted was how Facebook, how concerned individuals were with their privacy being shared. So I invited 100 friends, 82 took the survey, and it was open over a period of 3 weeks. So primarily most people took it in the beginning weeks. And then down here is what represents the percentage of people who took it. So in the category of 18 to 24, 47% said they were concerned, 53 said they were not concerned, and then in the category of 25 to 40-year-olds and up, 95% said they were concerned, 5% said they were not concerned. So as far as secondary research, we did a lot of studying on privacy programs. We had some outsider inputs, which included the individuals who worked at Facebook and some other like opinionated views from friends and peers. We also did get users' perspectives on old and new policy, like data policies. And so our primary themes were data breaches, previous breaches, and data collection. So for our secondary research, this was a study that I found that just came out after the recent September 25th data breach. So it was conducted amongst 10,754 individuals across the United States, UK, and Canada. And this represents how concerned they were. So in the blue is 26.2% said they completely understood what happened in regards to the breach. And this peach, 30.3% said I kinda understand what happened. And the mustard, 16.4 said I'm somewhat confused about what happened. The green, 12.1 said I don't understand what happened at all. And then in the orange, 15.1 said this is the first time I've heard of a data breach, which is a big deal. So, as now, Ricardo's gonna take over and go on from there.
Thank you, Deniece. So in September of 2016 was when Facebook first initiated the newsfeed feature onto the website. And surprisingly enough, there was a lot of users that were concerned about this. There were even a couple protests initiatives against it, but in the end, it ended up being one of Facebook's most successful tools for their website. And then in December of 2017, there was a launch for Beacon, 2007. And what this did was it would track users' purchases, and then it would tell your friends what you purchased. And of course, users were not happy about that. Zuckerberg ended up apologizing, and he also offered an option to opt out. And then in November of 2011, Facebook settled the Federal Trade Commission charges. They were charged because third parties had access to users' information, since also their friends. And then in June of 2013, there was a bug that exposed emails and phone numbers of users. Facebook did end up fixing the bug, but and they gave an apology and they notified the users that were affected. But the whole reason behind it was that they wanted to get new Facebook users onto their platform, and they wanted to do so by looking at the current users' contact information with their emails and their phone numbers, and try to get them onto the platform. And then in July of 2014, there was a mood manipulation experiment by Dr. Adam Kramer, and what he did was he wanted to prove that that newsfeed would, or the opinions on Facebook are affected by moods. It ended up being discontinued, and the scientists did apologize publicly. And then in April of 2017, Facebook cut off apps from collecting data. The problem with that, however, is that once they initiated that new policy, they weren't able to see what applications still had previous data that they had downloaded before the policy was enacted. And then in January of 2018, Facebook was willing to comply with Europe's online regulations with the data protection of users. This protection law governs how companies store users' information, and then they also have a requirement to disclose breaches within 72 hours. And it also they also released a new private policy along with it. And now Deniece will give you guys the recommendations.
So our recommendations were for a privacy policy, or excuse me, a privacy policy program that monitors and monitors regulatory and statutory changes, audits for potential threats from internal and external sources, and ensure felicity in developing business practices, maintain and establish alignment, implement accountability and adaptability. And then our alternative was the European Union. However, Ricardo will touch base on this, but the thing with the new data protection law, that it only goes so far. I think Facebook needs to be held more accountable. They need to be fined and regulated for these for such things to actually stick. Because this stuff, for them to have so many data breaches within a short amount of time is just absurd, and it's so many people are affected by it. And even as far as our internal sources within the company told me on a regular 40-hour work week, they deal with about 400 by one individual person, 400 compromised accounts, meaning like their account got. What's really popular right now is Nigerians are hacking Americans' accounts, doing a lot of scams, because we're very gullible over here, just believe whatever. So that's a huge problem, and they're able to get their credit card information. They're getting their socials, just absurd things that you should not, that a social networking platform should not have access to. And Ricardo will conclude it for you.
Thank you. So just to reiterate, Facebook wants to create a community for its users and bring the world closer together. They have had numerous data breaches, and that raises concerns for its users. In our report, we examined old and new private policies, and we concluded that there should be inspections of applications that are on Facebook. There needs to be a new employee training on effective communication among departments. That is because with the whole Cambridge Analytica scandal, the main reason that happened was because there was miscommunication between the private department and the legal/policy department of Facebook, because they would not agree on how to prioritize users' private information. And lastly, like Deniece mentioned, there needs to be accountability for Facebook. That means implementing fines and regulations whenever user data breaches occur again. And that concludes our presentation. We will now open the floor to questions.